as ask chat questions, and we can either answer them in real time, or of course we can always cache those for the end. And we will even have time for added demos at the end, depending on the type of questions we have. So please do feel free to chat or Q&A with us at any time. And at this point, I do want to introduce Maggie and Caitlin. Maggie is the Associate Director of the Claremore Economic and Industrial Development Authority, and Caitlin is the project coordinator, and they've both been instrumental in getting SizeUp Rogers County up and running. And they're gonna say a little bit before kicking it back to me, and then I will demo SizeUp Rogers County. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mario. Well, thank you to everyone for joining us today. As Mario shared, we represent the Claremore Industrial and Economic Development Authority. So while we see lots of familiar names and faces for those that are not familiar with CEDA, as we're more locally known, we are the economic development organization responsible for business recruitment, retention, and expansion. And so certainly, as many of you are likely not surprised and certainly have been impacted most recently by the COVID pandemic, we found over really the last 6 to 8 months, even prior to that kind of fully setting in, that, you know, we had a lot of smaller businesses that had a lot of networking opportunities and connectivity to local other businesses and contacts and suppliers and things of that sort through partners like the Claremore Chamber of Commerce and Main Street, Northeast Tech. They were able to get training from Rogers State University, all of those things. But a lot of the questions we were receiving, well, you know, am I paying, you know, a competitive rate? Or how do I measure a return on investment for my marketing? And how should I be marketing? And how do I figure this out? Or even from a startup perspective, perhaps even more dynamically, was how many other, you know, bakeries are there? How many other businesses like mine are there? And how do I decide if there's a market here? So CEDA kind of felt that there was this little gap that needed to be filled. And so that's where we connected with Mario and the SizeUp team to purchase this business intelligence tool. So very excited. As a part of all of that, launched the Connect platform for small businesses. And so that platform is a program, allows one-on-one meetings and connectivity, as well as customized training through partners like the previous education affiliates that we had mentioned. So very excited you're here. The intent of Connect or SizeUp is not to duplicate services, but really to add an additional leveling up and really fulfill that data piece role as people, especially those that maybe don't have a corporate affiliate or access to this data that tends to cost, you know, thousands of dollars. You have to bring in a consultant, all of those things. So it really allows them to make a decision on a more local level that's intentional there. And so with that, Caitlin's going to be, as she had mentioned, facilitating any questions that you guys have in the chat, and then she'll close us out during the question and answer session today. So with that, we will flip it back over to Mario to get launched in and started.
Thank you, Maggie. So before I get started on the demo, I want to talk about 3 really important points about SizeUp. So SizeUp is an enterprise class business analytics tool. These are the same type of information that, and I won't name names, but large restaurant franchises use. It's the same one that your large retailers that may have curbside pickup may be using. And it's the same type of information that your large manufacturers are going to use. But we're going to put it in the hands of small and medium local businesses. That's the first thing. The second thing is, unlike those type of businesses, those international or national businesses that have full-time business analytics staff, or they can pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to outside consulting companies to provide this information, we're putting this in the hands of owner-operators. Not only are we putting it in their hands, we're putting it in their hands at a time that they need. They're so busy running their business Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or oftentimes 7 to 7 or even later. Most of the time when they do their business planning, it's on evenings or on weekends. And SizeUp is a tool that is available for them 24/7. The other thing that's really important, and I'm going to show this to you now, is that it's simple and easy to use. You don't have to run a business and have a degree in statistics or be some sort of PhD or MBA. If you know how to run your business or you know the existing criteria of your business, you can use SizeUp. So with that context there, I'm going to go ahead and click share my screen. And if I can just get a quick head nod to make sure that everyone is seeing SizeUp Rogers County. Wonderful. So as I said, this is a very simple tool to use. All you need to know is what you are doing if you're an existing business, or what you plan to do if you're an entrepreneur, and where you're doing that. Whether that's in Catoosa or Claremore, all you have to know is what you want to do and where you want to do it. So as a father of two, I think a lot about coffee. And if I was starting a coffee shop in Claremore, and you can see you can list any city in Rogers County, you can go ahead and click save. And we're going to get started right here. Oop. Sorry about that. Hopefully you didn't catch it and I erased it soon. But we're actually going to count on you to give us the criteria that we're using here. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. And on your screen right now, you should see a question, which is, what is the average revenue for a coffee shop in Claremore? And I'm going to ask you to vote on that poll. And whatever you vote, we're going to go ahead and put in. So pretend that you're the entrepreneur. You're doing that back of the napkin analysis. You're figuring out how much you're selling your cup of coffee for, maybe $1, maybe $2, and how many cups of coffee you're going to sell in it. All right, we'll give it one more second, and then I'm going to end the poll. All right, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results with you, and you see that it is unanimous. Everyone thinks that the average coffee shop in Claremore is going to make $250,000, which makes me feel better since I had that auto filled in. We're going to put that information in. And right here, just at the beginning, if you were an entrepreneur and you wanted to understand how you would have to perform to be an average coffee shop in Claremore, you can see that we're actually really underestimating the power of coffee in Claremore. What you're seeing here is that, and we can look at it both in terms of charts and on hover, and we can look at it here, the average coffee shop in Claremore is making almost $500,000. So imagine if you're the entrepreneur who has no idea how much they would have to make to be competitive in this market, or you're the existing coffee shop and you're Joe's coffee shop, but you can't go over to Joanne or Fred's coffee shop and ask them because they're your competitors. So right here, we've already taken what was just a guess and put it in the lens of data to understand how you would have to perform. So there's more information that we'd want to know. We'd also want to know what the trends are within the industry. Is this a robust industry where a lot of businesses are starting? Or is this an industry like movie and DVD rentals where you just see a cascading line going all the way down to the right as all those Blockbusters and local video stores close? Now, we do understand that you may want to not look at this from a national average. You may want to see what the trends are at the state level, the metro level, or even the local level. This is completely configurable based on what your particular business plan or use cases for your business. And this information will show you the trends within that industry. And it can be any industry. We'll take a look at that later. So one of the other things that we have to figure out is what are the results relative to, to salary. Are you competitive? Are you paying your employees too much, too little? How does this affect your retention? So I think we can agree that $20,000 may not seem like a tremendous amount of money, but actually that's a very great salary for a barista working in the coffee industry. The average in the county is only $13,000. So you can see the information right here. So one of the other things that you have to figure out, not just revenue and how much you're paying your employees, how many employees is the right fit for your business? So I'm gonna launch another poll. So now you know something. You know that actually the revenue is almost twice what you thought. How many employees do you think you would need to have to power that level of revenue in Rogers County? So go ahead and answer this poll and then we'll share it with you. All right, I'm gonna have to ask someone else to vote because we have a three-way tie right now. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end this poll. And you're gonna see that the vast majority of you thought that it was between 7 and 10 people. So let's go ahead and put that in. I'll go ahead and put in 10 people. And now you're showing your expertise about your local community. So you can see 10 is exactly the right number for a coffee shop in Claremore. Now, why does this matter? Because let's say that you had 7 employees and people are like, oh, you're a small business. The fact is you are exactly the right amount of employees for a coffee shop. If you're looking to expand, maybe you have 12 or 13 because you're planning on training those additional employees in your existing location and then moving on to the other one. So through the lens of data, we can understand what is a large coffee shop versus a small business, because we know that each small business is unique, and the parameters in which they work, depending on the salary they're providing and the number of employees, can affect their total output and revenue. So at this point, we've been asking you to put in information. Now SizeUp is using its intelligence to super crunch millions of data points to provide you analysis on your cost effectiveness. So again, you're paying your employees a lot and you're at about half of revenue. Now, maybe that's fine. Maybe you're more of a sit-down place. You're providing a space for people to work and they're lingering longer. Maybe you have a higher price per item, but lower volume. That's okay as long as it suits your business plan. You can also look at revenue per capita and local turnover. So let's say that you're losing a team member every year and you're really frustrated by the need to recruit and then retrain someone. Through the lens of data, you'd actually see that you're expected to lose 2 people. So you're actually doing better than you thought. Maybe that's because your salary is so high, you're not losing your workforce to your competitors or to other industries. Now, we can also look at, say, healthcare costs to understand what the average is, which is oftentimes hidden from a lot of people, or even workers' compensation. I won't spend a lot of time on these because a lot of business owners are already aware of these, but I do want to show what we call our scenario or summary view. So the reason that this is so valuable is when you click that little link at the bottom, and I'll show it to you right here, detailed view and summary view, it pulls up a dashboard. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're running through scenarios and you want to understand what would happen if you were in fact batting average, you can actually run through those scenarios and see how that will affect your cost effectiveness. So now 17% above average versus 26% below average. If you're an existing business and you want to understand whether you need to expand or contract and how that will affect your cost effectiveness, you could look at perhaps expanding and adding in those additional employees and the impact that it might have on your bottom line. And as you run through those scenarios, this can become part of your report on what you're doing in terms of your business plan, in terms of meeting with banks, investors, or other financial institutions. So this is the first part of SizeUp Rogers County, and that is the My Business or benchmarking tool to help you understand how your business or the business you're planning will compete against other businesses in the industry. So again, please feel free to ask questions or Q&A at any time. But otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to move on to the second tool, which is the competition tool. So the competition, at this point, we've been talking about how your business is competing against other businesses. Now we want to understand kind of the spatial relationship of how our business is performing. So we're going to go ahead and map all of the other coffee shops in the area. And as you know, you may get coffee from more than just a coffee shop. Perhaps you get it from a diner. This tool allows you to define what your business plan is, who you're competing with, who you think your partners are, who you think your customers are. So we just added both diners and coffee shops to this list. And it doesn't matter whether you are oriented around text. You can click here and find Boomerang Diner, or you can click on the map and then find the businesses that you want to know more about. This is especially important if you're looking at businesses that you want to serve. So we've really been talking about coffee shops in terms of customers coming in and purchasing coffee. As we know, during the pandemic, some things have switched around. A lot of businesses now are offering catering service or back office services, filling the role of canteen services for businesses that still have to operate within the office. We see that sometimes in, say, bookkeeping or accounting. Why? Because they have sensitive financial records. These aren't things they can just transport all over the place. So we can enter lists of customers that we're interested in serving in the industries classification, and then SizeUp will super crunch millions of data points and provide lists of businesses that are potential prospects for you. And then we can zoom in on that map. Why does this matter? Instead of just being a cold call, you can actually look at this information, click on their website, understand more about that business, and it turns that cold call for prospecting into a warm call where you know more about what they need. The other thing that you can do is you can overlay even more information. So the information can be as deep or as broad as you want. Maybe you want to look at expenditures in food and beverages, or maybe you want to look specifically at the category of coffee itself, which would be snacks and non-alcoholic beverages. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so we can see the level of data that we have here. So the red areas here are getting a total of $2.3 million. The yellow area, 250,000, orange, 327. Now, we also want to talk about the accessibility feature of SizeUp. So we are making this available to everyone regardless of how they see or perceive vision. So everything that you're seeing here is going to announce things for people who are fully blind. And for those of you who may be red, green colorblind or blue, yellow colorblind, each of these shades that you're seeing on the scene will appear as different shades of gray. So we may want to look at that information as totals, or maybe we want to look at it as averages in terms of household spending. And you'll see the map will reorient around the type of analysis that that business wants to do. Now, I'm going to go ahead just to make the map a little clearer, remove this. And now we're going to look at something a little bit simpler, which is it doesn't matter if you're a fancy coffee shop or a sit-down coffee shop or a coffee shop where you're trying to sell those cups of coffee thousands of times at 99 cents. Everyone needs plates, paper, and napkin. If you're in the construction industry, you may be looking for lumber. It just depends on the type of business that you're in. So we could go ahead and look at restaurants, equipment, supplies, and wholesales, and we're going to go ahead and map where you can get those supplies. Why does this matter? In the age of the pandemic, sometimes you can't get the things that you need that traditionally, you may not have known this, came from Vietnam or India or China. So local sourcing is now something that people have to look for. So this is the competition tool. It allows you to understand your competitors, your prospects or your existing customers, and your suppliers, the spatial relationship between all of them. And it gives you an opportunity to then go look at some of those other businesses to see why in that heat map, why they're making more money, less money than you. And so you can understand perhaps changes that you want to make to your business to optimize its performance. So again, at any time you can ask Q&A or chat. I don't see any open questions right now. So I'm gonna head to the advertising tool, but if anything piques your curiosity, please do let us know. So this is the advertising tool, but really it's more powerful than just advertising. This is a tool to understand what your trade area is and optimize how you want to reach out to the prospects within that trade area. So right now we're just looking at coffee shops in the Claremore, Oklahoma area based on total revenue. A completely valid way of looking at things. That's what most businesses want to understand. Where is the most money? And where can I advertise where I'm most likely to get the audience that's spending that money? So you can see everything from Owasso to Broken Arrow or Tulsa, but this is completely customizable. So let's say that we're not looking so much for coffee shops that are making the most money or area where people are spending that money, but we want to identify underserved areas. These are areas where we feel that the market is right. So we can go ahead and select this, and we'll go ahead and select most underserved markets. And we're going to make some changes. In my theoretical coffee shop, we're really trying to target smaller, sort of a smaller niche market, which is people with children. So we're going to identify areas where there's a slightly lower median age, maybe 20 to 40. And you'll see that the map will automatically relocate. And we maybe think 27 miles a little bit too far for people to go. So we can shrink that down to 15 miles. And now we've identified the 3 areas that we would want to target to say we have a unique value proposition for you. We have a coffee shop that serves families. There's a kids play area, or maybe there's something else. Plugs for parents to get work done. It just depends on what your business process is. And this tool can be used in the construction industry, or it can be used in professional services, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So right now we're looking at underserved areas specifically, and you can notice the filters right here showing the median age. What happens if we were in professional services? So, and we can look as deep or as shallow as we wanted. So here we're looking at dentists, but maybe we're looking specifically at cosmetic dentistry. We want people not just to have healthy teeth, but beautiful looking smiles. So we can look here, but because it's cosmetic dentistry, we know that people are willing, unlike a coffee shop, to travel from even farther out. So we can adjust those filters up to say 60 miles. And we may be targeting households that are higher income. We don't care about the age. If grandpa wants to have his teeth look good, that's fine, as long as he's willing to spend our money here in Claremore. So we're going to go ahead and look at household income, which is where some people may consider their trade area. And so you can see the map will dynamically adjust to represent the type of prospect that you're looking for. And you can take this information, you can put it over to Google AdWords so that you're targeting the people on Google or on Facebook, or maybe you want to identify billboards, local newspapers, community organizations, Chamber of Commerce's in this area to partner with and advertise tool. So this is the Claremore, Oklahoma underserved markets and cosmetic industry analysis. So you can see how truly targeted you can get with the advertising tool. So I'm going to pause for a second and check the chat and Q&A. All right, I don't see anything yet. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the fourth and final tool for Connect Claremore, SizeUp Rogers County. So one of the ways that we think about information is demographically. And we, of course, could show you what it looks like for the city of Claremore. You've seen this before. So I want to show you something a little bit more interesting. I'm going to just pick in a random address. I'm just going to put in the number 12, and we'll go ahead and pick a demographic overview. So this is 20 miles. You've seen these before. These are ring reports, but this is not generic data. It's 2020 data with 2025 projections. And it's site specific. So we're not just looking at it for the county or the city, which you've seen before. And you can do it. I'm just trying to make us a little bit more efficient with our time so I can answer your questions. So you're seeing that information right now. This is site specific. Now, you may think, 20 miles, but there's a mountain here, a river here, a lake there. So maybe the better way to look at it is via drive time. So instead of showing you 20 miles, I'm now going to show you a consumer expenditures report around 20 minutes. So instead of that solid circle that you're used to, you're actually going to get this specific polygon, which is the 20 minutes that you have within this consumer industry. And before we were showing you consumer expenditures, let's go ahead and think about this in the context of dentistry instead. So we're looking at healthcare. So let's go ahead and look at healthcare services. You can see this switch right now. We can look at it as a pie chart. We can look at it as information. We're going to go ahead and look at healthcare services. And now we're going to get this detailed map of where people are spending money on healthcare services. And if we zoom in a little bit further, we're actually going to get detailed neighborhood information. So right here in downtown Claremore, there's only about $250,000 to $500,000 of spending. But if you go just slightly up here to the northeast, you can actually see that you're looking at almost 3 times that spending. So this is not generic county or even zip code level data. You're looking at neighborhoods, so you can target to that level. Now, some businesses really aren't that interested in consumer expenditures. They may be more interested in the type of workforce that's there. SizeUp Rogers County also lets you understand that. So we can look at labor force, and I'm going to show you something else right here, which is we oftentimes think of driving time or other types of services as something that we do in terms of just a generic geography. Maybe you're targeting along a certain corridor. So I'm going to show you this within a boundary tool. So this lets you define right down to a point on the map exactly the type of area that you're trying to analyze. So let's say that we're actually focused more on this transportation corridor. And we're just going to ignore this section over here just because we know that there's maybe some construction going over here. And we're going to get this little triangle there because we know there's some really great machinists for our company there. We're going to go ahead and select labor force, and we're going to select create. So instead of just looking things from some sort of drive time or other analysis, you're going to find out the exact type of firms that are in this specific shape that you created custom to your business plan, along with the type of skills that they have. So if we're looking at the industry, we could understand what type of firms are there. And I'm going to scroll past because there's hundreds of values, but I wanted to show you the breadth of the information that's available to you. And we can get past the companies, and then we can actually look at the type of employees that are there. So if we're looking at construction and extraction or production workers or whatever it may be, we can click here. And now we have a map, not just of what's happening, but specific to this shape in this area. So this is the amount of people who work in the construction and extraction industry within these shapes. So there's a lot more power here, but instead of just doing a generic example, because maybe not all of you want to open a coffee shop or work in cosmetic dentistry, we wanted to give you time here to answer your questions, to look at your specific use cases, and provide you the information that's going to be most valuable to you. Great. So before we get to the Q&A section, let me turn this back over to Caitlin and Maggie to see if there's anything else that they wanted to share or say. Otherwise, we'll move on with the Q&A.
Thank you, Mario. I think that the big key here is, one, I neglected to share. So this tool is free for use on CETA's website at GrowClaremore.com. So as Mario shared, it's available 24/7, all of that. So happy to provide that, as well as just as a mental note. Mario is going through a ton of information here. This session is being recorded, and we're happy to share that out. And so as you want to play and pause as you're working through this moving forward, we're happy to do that as well.
Wonderful. So please, Caitlin.
It looks like we have one question from Lori Ann. She wants to know how much businesses pay for cleaning services in Claremore.
Sure. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. Answer that live. And there we go. So this is an interesting question, because oftentimes what you're talking about is really using different aspects of the tool to triangulate the information that you needed to know. So if you're specifically talking about Claremore, so I'm going to go ahead and look at consumer expenditures in Claremore. I didn't show this analysis initially, but you can see that all of the information is right here. And we're going to go ahead and search for that category, because there are hundreds. So I think you were looking, pardon me, I'm going to look here at consumer expenditures, and we are looking for, and I feel like I knew this. Well, that's dry cleaning and laundry, which is interesting, but not what you're looking for. I believe that falls under custodial services. So if you give me 1 second, I will go ahead and find that. There we go. And I'm cheating right now and looking that up. One moment. Okay. So this is why I said that you sometimes have to try to sort of triangulate. So there's actually all sorts of different types of cleaning services, as you can see. So as I said, it can be broad or as narrow as you want. So we actually have concrete restoration and cleaning, sewer and drain cleaning services, sanitation, laundry, vacuum, cleaning compounds. So I'm going to actually ask you, Laura, if you can respond in chat, specifically what type of cleaning you're looking for. We can go into business cleaning and maintenance services. So that may be if you're going for more of a commercial cleaning services. And we could look at the average business here. I'm just going to pick $500,000 just out of curiosity. You can see in the metro area, it's about $300,000. So it is going to depend on the category that you're looking for. And I'm just looking to see if Lori has helped us narrow down that answer. But as you can see you can just type in plain English what you're interested in, and then we can even go to, say, house cleaning if you're looking at residential. So we were looking at about $300,000 for commercial cleaning and maintenance services. And now when we're looking at the actual consumer perspective, we're looking at about $250,000, so about $50,000 less. So if I was in, and I don't know which cleaning service that you work with, Lori, but I would actually focus probably on the commercial. There's more money there, but it depends on what type of analysis that you're looking for. And then you could look at that from the competition tab by going into these industries to understand the other companies that are in that business.
Mario, I believe what Lori is trying to get is, so as a small business owner, if she were wanting to contract to receive cleaning services, is there a way to see what other people are paying to receive those kind of services from local businesses?
Got it. So that wouldn't fall under the consumer expenditures landscape because it's not a consumer expenditure. That would be a business-to-business expenditure. So I think you would have to probably look at some of the other values that are adjacent to it. But we wouldn't have that type of information. We have the type of information in terms of what revenue is there, as I showed you. So again, I'm going to go back to actually the business cleaning services. So this is building cleaning and maintenance services. And then we could look at demographics around that, and that would probably be size of companies. So if she's targeting specific sizes of companies, maybe she doesn't want to take on a super large contract with 1,000 business offices. She could go ahead and do labor force. And again, it could be in Claremore or it could be in Rogers County. And then she's going to get a list of establishments by size. So, so I don't know if I have an exact answer for her, but I have answers adjacent to the type of businesses that she may be pursuing. So if she was trying to services with, say, smaller businesses, 10 to 19 employees, she can actually look at where the concentration of those size of businesses are there. But to know exactly how much that business is spending on, one business is spending on another business's services, we don't have the ability to aggregate that information at that level. Thank you for the question, Lori. I hope that's helpful.
One thing I also noticed as you were going through this demo was that you have a report that can draw from a radius, a distance, what businesses there are within that industry. So maybe something Lorianne could do is pull those businesses within the radius that she's looking at and then contact each of them for a quote and decide from there.
Mm-hmm. Right. So in this case, that functionally would be a supplier. So instead of looking at from the perspective of what is my business, we would actually go at suppliers and then add cleaning businesses, depending on what she's looking for, right? We mentioned business cleaning, and then it would produce the list for her. So she has all of these companies that work in that industry. So if she wanted to contact Service Master, she could go ahead and do that. Let me see, is there another question or Q&A?
It looks like we have another question from Herb McSpadden that asks, will this tool help find available locations for new businesses? I believe what Herb is talking about here is finding specific buildings that are available to lease or own. Do you guys have that feature?
So we don't. Our former parent company, so we were spun off from a company called GIS Planning in 2017. And GIS Planning provides real estate connection services. What I can tell you is for SizeUp, this is oftentimes where people start. They're not looking for a building yet, and it's usually through their partners at the chambers, at your EDOs, at your SBDCs, that you'll take the next step to then start looking at real estate. So that's not a tool that we directly supply, but there's some excellent resources out there for you.
Counselor McSpadden, I think the intent, kind of pairing off of that, is that our incoming companies would, as Mario mentioned, use this as a tool to say, okay, here's where I want to be, or here's where I want to avoid based on competitors. And then that's where we do have that GIS tool, as well as a CoStar application as well, which are separate entities, where we would use this to beef up those existing platforms instead of just kind to randomly assess or try to determine that data. That SizeUp would help us have a little more strategy and platform behind that to partner with the existing platforms we have to do that feature already.
And the question again is, I was wondering about budgeting compared to my competition. So I don't know, I'm gonna guess at what you're asking, but I think what you're saying is, what are your kind of individual line items for your business. So there are specific ones that we do talk about. Let me actually get there to, we were at cleaning, and if this is business to business. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that category, and I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm doing. Apologies, one moment. There we go. So building, cleaning, maintenance services. So some of those line items really are going to be salary. And I put in 40,000. You can see information, it's about 20. And number of employees, I will put in 5. The average one in the metro area is going to be about 12. So in terms of your budget, we can talk about salary, we can talk about revenue, but how much you perhaps spend on paper clips versus what your competitors do, we don't go to that level of detail. I do know that if you're using one of the kind of major financial tools, and not to say anyone's better than another, but there's QuickBooks, there's Xero, there's Peachtree Accounting. A lot of those, if you're willing to pay for more than the basic account, they aggregate, whether you know that or not, they aggregate your data in the same way that Experian, Equifax, they aggregate the data for consumer expenditures. So, so if you do have one of those accounting software firms, or not firms, but software packages, and you want to pay a little bit more money, they can help you benchmark sort of those line item budgets. And that's something that they would focus on. And I hope that's helpful. Again, without any particular endorsement for any of them, it is something that I know they do. All right. And I'm seeing if there's any other Q&A. And yes, Herb, thank you. I hope that was helpful to you. Caitlin or Maggie, did you see any other questions that I didn't see?
I do not.
Well, you guys are going to give me a big head, and my wife's going to be very mad at you, because if I answered all the questions and there's still 18 minutes left, my ego's just going to get bigger, and that's not a healthy thing. Are you sure that there's no other questions that I can answer, some scenarios that you wanted to go through? Okay. Well, then I do want to leave you with a thought. All of this information that you are seeing is really powerful information. I don't want to pretend that SizeUp has all of the answers, and clearly you've disabused me of that notion anyway through the Q&A, but it is a starting place. And I want to be clear that this is just part of your journey, but SizeUp is updated quarterly, so you can come back and revisit. If your revenue changes, the revenue of other businesses are changing. Maybe you think you're doing poorly, but maybe we're in the middle of a pandemic and everyone's revenue is going down. Or maybe coming out of the pandemic, as you've seen from some of these trends, and I'm going to show this to you right now. I'm going to just pick any random business. I'm actually going to look at construction. And what you're going to see is that out of every pandemic, I'm going to go to year started here, or every great recession, or every economic downturn, what you'll tend to see, because here's 2008, right here, you can see that there's actually an explosion of business. The tool that CETA is providing you is not just in response to the pandemic, it's really a future-looking investment into the explosion of economic activity we're going to see coming out of this pandemic. So please use the tool and then come back and use it again, because as the competitive landscape changes, SizeUp's going to keep up with you. It's going to show you the new businesses that have started. It's going to show you the businesses that have closed and how your performance changes. So this isn't just a tool for right now, it's a tool for now and the future as your business continues to grow and as you continue to use SizeUp to optimize your business decision making. Thank you so much for investing the time today. If you have any questions, I know that the whole SizeUp team, along with the CETA team, is here to help you succeed. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mario. I want to remind everybody that this program is free on behalf of CETA. It's found on our website under Doing Business, Size Up Your Small Business. But I will follow up with an email to all of you with the link as well as our contact information. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at any time.
Stay safe, everyone.